Welkom bij Overwerk, de podcast met verhalen van en over de werkvloer.
Met Jeroen Hijsma
en Remco Boer.
Vandaag hebben we Daria van Engelen te gast. Kun je iets vertellen over jezelf?
Hello, my name is Daria. I come from Ukraine. I live in the Netherlands for 3 years already. I'm here joining my friends to talk about interesting work situations. I have lived and worked in Ukraine, Italy, and now Netherlands. And a lot of fun things happened in those years.
Nou, vertel maar. Daar ben ik wel heel nieuwsgierig.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting to see differences in cultures in general, people, and then how it's incorporated in the work culture as well. So, for example, in Ukraine, people are always stressed, always running somewhere, kind of New Yorkish, in my opinion, style of life. Always on the run, always with a coffee in your hand and always late for some appointment, never having strict working hours, always doing more than you are expected to do.
Waarom?
I don't know. I think in the culture maybe of people in the heads that you always want to outperform yourself.
Yourself or the competition? Very competitive between... begin ik zelf ook aan het Engels.
Misschien moeten we dat even uitleggen.
Ja.
Want we hebben het er net over gehad. Ons idee was dat wij de vraag in het Nederlands stellen. En Daria spreekt gewoon goed Nederlands.
Ik versta Nederlands.
Dit is het bewijs. Ze verstaat dus heel goed Nederlands. Maar ze spreekt liever in het Engels, omdat ze zich daar beter in kan uitdrukken.
Ja.
En ons idee was om Nederlands de vraag te stellen en dan Engels antwoord terug te krijgen. Maar dat blijkt lastiger dan verwacht. Je gaat gewoon automatisch mee in het Engels.
We lijken wel Nederlanders.
We lijken wel Nederlanders, ja. Die gaan gewoon mee in wat nodig is.
Ja, dat is wel
een Nederlanders passen zich heel erg aan. De klassieke idee van de handelsgeest. Dat je je aanpast aan waar je heen gaat, zodat je makkelijk handel kunt drijven.
Ja, of dat idee hebben we in ieder geval, dat we ons heel makkelijk aanpassen.
Ja, ik denk dat andere mensen er heel anders over nadenken, inderdaad.
I think, well, first of all, you all speak great English. That's the first thing you notice. And that could be one of the reasons it's so hard to switch into Dutch, because everybody just switches into English and feels like they're teaching English at least, because the general level of English speaking is fantastic. And because all your films are not dubbed, so it's all in English. If you go to the cinema, everything is in English. It's paradise. In Ukraine, I have to look for showings of films in English because everything is dubbed in Ukrainian. So it was always my normal, and then here it's really great.
Yeah, and I've lived in Sweden for a while, and that's the same issue. If you try to learn Swedish and you try in your imperfect Swedish, they switch to English, and then you're okay.
And that is nice. That is nice.
But it's the thing. Yeah, you should learn to ask in Dutch. Please speak Dutch to me because I'm learning. That's the most important sentence you can learn in Dutch.
But sometimes people have the other problem, like my colleague Mary. When she speaks Dutch to other colleagues, they start replying in English. She says, "But that's not the point. I'm trying to speak Dutch, trying to train myself and speak Dutch with you. But you get back with English because, of course, people hear the accent and maybe it all comes out from the nature of trying to be nice. It's always with Dutch people, the super kindness and the natural desire to, as you said, adjust to other people. But it's just like incorporated. Everybody's so nice.
Yeah.
So maybe if you see or hear or think that somebody's struggling with this word or saying it in Dutch, and then you just want to make it easier for them.
But maybe it's better to ask. If you want to learn a language, I think because I have the experience of living in another country, I would ask, would you prefer me to speak Dutch or English? Mm-hmm. Because speaking is really the most effective way to learn a language.
And the most difficult.
That's why it's so effective. Because your brain has to work really hard. Ja, en daarom spreken wij ook Engels.
Ja. Maar nu even niet.
Dit is erg interessant terug luisteren.
Ja, zeker.
On topic.
Going back to competition, yeah?
Yeah.
That could be one angle of looking at it, that there is too much competition. Never thought about it like that, because personally for me there was no competition where I worked. I worked in a company that sold Italian furniture, and we had more than 100 different factories from Italy, all kinds of regions. And I started as just an interpreter, so they needed somebody who could talk to factories in Italian, and I just graduated with in English and Italian languages and lived a year in Rome. And then I was looking for a job with the Italian language, and I came across this one. I started as an interpreter, and then after a year, I was promoted to import manager, and then after another year to a store manager. So my range of responsibilities was everything, starting from welcoming customers to the store if everybody else was busy, and of course ending with just the most direct responsibilities of talking to factories and arranging all deliveries. There was no competition for me. I was the only person who spoke Italian. Really, the rest were just salespeople and the boss.
So did you work in like a big city or more like
in Ukraine, in Kiev, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know about the rest of the country. Is it the same in Kiev as in the rest of Ukraine?
Couldn't say, because even some friends that I have from other regions, they all moved abroad. I have a friend in Canada, a friend in Belgium, a friend in America. I don't know.
Yeah. So why did all your friends move away from you?
Various reasons away from me. It was always funny because I wasn't born in Kiev. I was born in another big city, Dnipro. But I then moved to Kiev to study at the university. And most of my friends are from the university. I don't know. Sometimes we text, but not to the extent of seeing each other. And the university friends, everybody had a goal. Somebody dreamt to go to America. Other people dreamt to go to Canada. And this girl who lives now in Belgium, I'm actually happy because now I'm close to her. I did not see her when I was in Kiev. And now we can see each other once in 3 months or something like that.
But why do they dream about leaving the country?
People who come to study the English language generally have a dream of living in the English-speaking country.
Yeah,
I don't know where it comes from.
It's the bias from the course you're taking, like the studies you do.
Yeah, if you like the language, this love probably comes from somewhere. So I always loved England, and I dreamt to live in England, and somebody else loves America.
Okay, so...
Why did they move? Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not because they don't love Ukraine, because I think of many things that happen now. The war has made people realize even more how much we love our home country. So some things you take for granted, like me going home every 3 months, and now I haven't been there for over a year. It's the first time in my life, and now you really feel this nostalgia, and I think really just walking down the park or just even being in my apartment. I can't have my things. I want to even just simple things like seeing my photos full or something like that. Of course, just some basic things I took with me here, but all my memories are still there.
So is it the plan to go back permanently?
No, I mean go back, see my stuff, see the country, walk and see my favorite places. For now, they are not destroyed.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's of course not a plan to go back. I'm living here now permanently. I'm married, and even my cat is here.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get back to work ethic in Ukraine. People are very...
How did I say it? Always on the run, always in a hurry. That is a general feeling. Yeah, but maybe also of any capital. I don't know. Could be. The general capital feeling. Yeah. I think if you go to Amsterdam, you always see people running down the streets as well with
they're more in a rush.
Coffee.
Yeah. And if you look at Sweden, Stockholm is more in a rush than the rest of Sweden. If you go like 50 kilometers north, it's already a slower pace.
Yeah, so I went from Kiev, so like the capital of hyperactivity, to Hedel with alpacas in my backyard.
Yeah.
That was a roller coaster.
So first you worked in Ukraine?
Yes.
Then you went to Italy?
In Italy, I went for business trips, and there is one of their biggest furniture exhibition in Milan every year in April, and we visited it every year. And just various work trips with customers, visiting factories or making orders, having prosecco in Venice. If a customer comes and orders a kitchen for 50,000 euros, 100,000 euros, then he gets a full package from us, and we show him the factory where his kitchen will be made. I think he deserves that.
Yeah.
Paying that money for an exclusive piece of art.
So you pay all that money, and then you have to go on a trip as well.
I have to, really have to.
And drink prosecco.
But from there, you get more insight into Italians and how they work. Because it's one thing to just call them or email with them. But when you're there, you see, of course, it's still a little bit of a show because you're there with the customer. So they will always also outperform themselves. But you can see how dedicated they are. Yeah, of course, they have not siesta like Spaniards, but they always have their lunch. Like no matter what, we have our lunch. Don't call us, don't bother us. We're on lunch.
And the lunch is not like here, 30 minutes with a peanut butter sandwich.
No, it's really...
lunch is real food.
Real food. In Ukraine as well. And that's also a big difference. Food. And not only on a personal level, but we're talking about work, so you can see who is Dutch and who's not. If you're eating a sandwich, then you're Dutch, and if you have something else, then you're not. Most of the times.
But honestly, when I was still working a long ways from here, every morning I would make my peanut butter sandwiches, 4 sandwiches, every day the same. It's quick, it's easy. Put them in my lunchbox.
Very efficient.
And drive. Yeah. And they don't have to think about what will be my lunch. It's always the same, easy.
Is that a typical Dutch thing, the efficiency?
Yes, and easy, because I like easy, of course. Who doesn't? It takes much more time to come up with a healthy thing to eat. Think in advance when you cook it, how you prepare it, not forget to take it. Then also what you see here is out of always good intentions. It's just you see it very straight away. If you eat something else, everybody's looking at you. Everybody's asking what you're eating. Like literally everybody looks into my lunchbox.
Because it's different.
Up to the point that I started taking not a transparent lunchbox, a colored lunchbox. I practically stole it from my husband's daughter because I don't want people picking into what I eat.
Oh.
Really?
Or you should put a note on it.
No, like
in case
this
you're wondering,
is Ross's
this
sandwich.
is
No.
and this is the recipe. Stop bothering me.
No, it's fine for one time, but
Yeah.
if it happens for 2 years and I'm still eating this, yes, hasn't changed. I'm still not eating a sandwich, and it's not only me. It's my colleague, also all the people who come from different countries and are used to different diets. And it's as if I was making fun of your sandwich every day. I'm not, So it's kind of weird. So probably as same weird as it is to people seeing we eat not a sandwich.
But for us, it's the same. If we go to another country and you take your sandwiches for lunch and you sit beside them, they're looking at you like, what are you doing?
Really?
Yeah, eating sandwiches? That's strange.
But it is much more common. If you go to England, in London, everybody has a sandwich. Everybody.
In Sweden,
we can
there
say
are
everybody.
lines of 20 people in front of the microwave to heat their food.
Really?
And I was eating sandwiches. And I was strange.
That's fun. But at least now it makes me feel better than not only Ukrainians have warm lunch.
No. It's a lot of countries, I think.
I think all the countries except Dutch, maybe.
Yeah, and English people, so Londoners.
But what you see in an English sandwich is it's much more varied. So you can see greens in it, you can see different types of cheese and maybe some kind of meat, not just a peanut butter
So
sandwich.
it's a lot of food with 2 slices of bread.
Yeah, it's not about the bread. Here it's more about the bread.
Yeah.
When my husband visited me first in Kiev, he said, do you have nice bread? But I think I do. But then he said, like,
Yo,
this is
no, you
terrible
don't.
bread.
Exactly.
And I agree. Here the bread is fantastic, but you are much more of a bread culture than us. Even though that's not true, because Ukraine is one of the biggest producers and suppliers of wheat in general. Yeah. So
Wheat,
and we do
not
like
wheat.
Yeah.
Wheat, wheat is our thing, right?
Yeah, not that wheat. So yeah, it's we like our bread and it's also nice, but it's different and not as nice as the Dutch bread apparently.
And in Italy,
It's inbred into our culture.
when you go to Italy and you say when you go there with a customer, it's like more like a show. But did you see a part of the Italian working habits without the show?
Sometimes, and we did this trick with my boss. We pretended that I don't speak Italian, and some people knew that I did. But first time you go to a factory, they don't know that, and then we would hear some inside information. Like especially funny it is the approach of the discount. So it's not meant that there's only one discount. It depends on if they like you enough or what their plan is, or I don't know, whatever it depends on. But you can hear 2 guys talking like, shall we give them 30%? No, let's give them 25. No, she's cute. Let's give her 35. So it's really, no, it really is like that, and it's fun. They probably have like a top, don't go over 40, and then they just decide on the spot.
But the discount is normal.
Yeah, the discount is normal in everything, right? The general rule: the bigger the discount, the more markup they did. If somebody offers you a 50% discount, you gotta wonder, what did they multiply it for then?
Yeah.
2 or 3?
Yeah, the companies want to earn as much as they can, right?
Yeah, and the discount feels nice, so we just put up a bit and take it off again, and then everybody's happy.
It's basic psychology. If you say it costs 100 euros, and that's a lot for a beer, and then you say, okay, for you it's 49.95. Oh, 50% discount.
Yeah.
And then they believe it's crazy cheap, and they still pay 40 euros too much.
And the Dutch are a bit, if it's too cheap, we think it's low quality.
Yeah, but it's not only the Dutch. I think that's
I have that
something
too,
in
yeah.
general.
I came up with another good example, I think, of how maybe a little bit work ethics regarding how you stand by your employees and in general how you protect your employees within a company when something happens. So let's take a situation, something happens which the Ukrainian part is to blame. So the company that I worked in, let's say, I don't know, a mistake in an order that was sent to the factory and factory produced a table with a wrong dimension, something like that.
With the legs on the wrong side.
And the purple legs, instead.
Yeah, and just one.
One purple leg, yeah. And what would happen if something like this happens in an Italian company and something like this happened in a Ukrainian company? So a Ukrainian company will look for somebody to blame, or at least in my experience. Who sent the wrong order? Who made this mistake?
Who is responsible
Who is really
for this?
responsible for this mistake? As if then he will be executed and the problem is solved. Whereas on the Italian part...
Will he?
Will there be consequences?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we had one lady made a mistake in a kitchen order. There was something with angle of the kitchen. So when the kitchen was produced, you really had to make a lot of adjustments in Kiev when it arrived. And of course, somebody had to pay for these adjustments. And the factory, they just received their own order. So if the factory is nice, then they could contribute for free, send you some details. But they are not supposed to. Yeah, it's not their mistakes. They produced everything as was ordered. And then the person who made a mistake will pay for the consequences. Privately from their salary.
Is that common in Ukraine?
Once again, I worked only in this company for 10 years.
Yeah, but did you hear other cases?
Yes. So on the one hand, it's, yes, taking responsibility for what you did wrong. On the other hand, there should be maybe some kind of compromise of how you solve it, because
I can
we are
imagine
all not robots.
If you are like have your own company, if you contract someone to make an order, and then for me it should be normal. If I make the mistake, then I pay for the mistake, but I'm not working for a company, I'm working for myself. But if you work for a company, then the security of the company would say, okay, we as a company take you get how do you call it, you get
shared responsibility.
Yeah, and there will be consequences, but more like an angry manager, but not like private money which has to go into
exactly. And maybe this is just my bad examples. I'm sure it depends on the company. A lot of companies are also more like bigger companies. Of course, I understand that you should take responsibility for what you're doing, but we can all make mistakes. And the only person who doesn't make mistake is the person who doesn't do anything. Maybe it's my example of a company that was rather small. As I described, we were 10 people. Maybe if it's a bigger company with more investments, maybe it would be solved differently. But the general tendency that I saw in that company and in a few other examples from my friends, that somebody would look for a responsible person. And then also up to the point of almost like in a kindergarten, like he made a mistake, almost to call into the factory, she made a mistake. Now, how can we solve it? So it's about pointing fingers, which is never good. And it doesn't solve the conflict.
No, it never solves anything. But is that common in Eastern Europe? Because I worked with some colleagues from Poland, for example, and they also showed behavior that they were afraid to come forward with their mistakes because they were afraid of the consequences that could be involved.
I think so.
And those people were less likely to ask questions because they also feared to come across as
less smart.
Yeah, let's not say stupid, but less intelligent than their competitors, maybe.
So they make more mistakes because they don't ask, and they don't talk about the mistakes, so their colleagues make the same mistakes, and I see where this is going.
I can say I saw this pattern a lot in my surroundings. I can just outline that I know people who will rather not ask than ask, being afraid to appear stupid. I never did that. I'm more, afraid is a bad word. I just want to perform well. So in order to perform well, I prefer to ask more questions rather than make a mistake then that nobody will probably discover even until some point.
Yeah, but the company that you're working now, that's very common and accepted or promoted even, to ask if you're unsure about things because the consequences of making a mistake could be very costly. But did you find when you were working in the Ukrainian company that besides you, other people were actively avoiding it?
No, and not in this company, but what I did encounter is a few situations like I just described, when there was a mistake made, then really person to blame was responsible for this, up to financial consequences. Sometimes these consequences could be so high that the person wouldn't even be able to pay it from their salary. So then there would be like a special arrangement, because of course nobody will make you work till the rest of your life for free. No, not to that extent, but you would always be held accountable in some way for this mistake. And maybe it's just in nature what you said, that people are afraid to make mistakes because everybody's over responsible, wanting to avoid mistakes and be perfect all the time, which is very tiring.
Oh, tell me about it.
Mr. Perfect. Yes, and that leads me to describing the same situation if it happened in Italy, and I did see it because we were expecting an order for a very high politician, in his position, position politician, a poem.
Yeah, you were strong in wheat, not in wheat.
Yes. So there was a delay, quite a big delay with this last order for him. And we met with the factory at the exhibition and we asked questions and they said, come to the factory tomorrow and check. When we arrived, my boss insisted on asking in high tones, who is responsible for this mistake? Again, the question that comes from a person who always looks for somebody responsible. And then I said, oh my God, this is going to be really, really embarrassing to find this person crying in the corner, But no, nobody showed this. So it was not even a question, They just said this happened. We have a delay. And then they explained.
It was more like a team. In Italy, they said,
nobody points
the factory
fingers.
has a delay.
Factory has delay, then they would come up with some reason that seemed trustworthy. And it doesn't matter if it was true or not. It is important to give some reason that we can also give to our customer. That's it. Nobody pointed fingers. And the same I see now in the Netherlands, that it's always a team spirit. When you hear a question or something happens, something goes wrong, nobody will ever say who is to blame. But even moreover, without knowing all the details, our superiors will just say, I'm sure my team did the best. They will never make you feel inferior or...
Yeah, but I think you're lucky in the company where you're at now, because there are a lot of companies who still work on that fear-based system. So you better not screw up, or else somebody will yell at you very loudly. So maybe the company that you're working at, it's for sure it's not the exception, but I don't think it's like this in all the companies. It also depends a little bit on your manager, because there are a lot of bad managers. And to be honest, I think there are more bad managers than good ones. And a lot of those managers or directors or CEOs or CFOs or whatever, they can be very passionate about the company, and they can be very...
patronizing.
Yeah, patronizing towards their co-workers, or the people they should consider co-workers, in a very unpleasant manner.
It depends really on the company. And the first thought I had is about politics. They always want somebody to point at and blame instead for looking for a solution.
That was led me to another thought. And then in general, the distance in Ukraine, the distance between you and your boss is much more visible than in the Netherlands, or at least the company I have experience here only with one company. So as you said, it probably cannot be taken for granted that it is like this everywhere. But just to do the parallel with at the moment, I can see my supervisors and the owners of the company in the same room, and you can talk to them. There is no weirdness, and you do not feel like there is a mountain between you. Whereas in Ukraine, there is always a mountain between you and like the toppest, the owner of the company. And it was slightly different in my case, because the owner of the company was also the director and the person I reported to. And we developed through this 10 years a very strong friendship that made me stay in the company even when it was going down, like really the mice left the ship, but I was still there. But in general, if something was going wrong, then this distance would always stay in between us. Like one day you're drinking coffee or Prosecco, and then other day something is wrong, and
the
mountain is back.
And not your friend.
The mountain is back.
Even with 10 people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now you're in a company with 150 people. You don't have that feeling.
Of course, there is still the distance, but it's not as visible.
Seems maybe smaller than...
Seems smaller, and maybe you feel a little more connected, even though I don't have direct interaction with the owners of the company, unlike I did in Ukraine on daily basis. So that might have led to sort of a friendship forming, because if you are together all the time, she could text me in the morning that instead of going to the office, we go to drink a coffee. And that was nice. That is what I miss now, because now it's only office job. And that is what somebody also asked me on the first job interview. Are you going to miss Italy? Are you going to miss the different rhythm of working? And I said, there's only one way to find out. So now I know that this is really missing, that no travels, no spontaneous visits somewhere, no spontaneous coffee. Then you understand that was important.
Important to you.
Yes, just to not get into too much in the routine of every day. Then it's all the same. The problems change, but the challenges change. The frame of the day is the same.
True, but a lot of office jobs are just that, office jobs.
So there are pluses and minuses to every job and any country, I guess.
So about, you're working now in the Netherlands for 2 years. Yeah. So what do you enjoy the most with working with Dutch people?
Well, what I already mentioned, that it's really a team spirit. Everybody is very helpful and very kind. So you will never hear somebody snap at you. And politeness is probably also a general trait of Dutch people. My first week of working in this company, I heard people around me always saying, before they ask a question, can I ask you a question? And this is how I picked it up, because before I never said, can I ask a question? I would just, of course, in an appropriate time, not interrupting anybody, but I would just come up and ask a question. But then I texted my husband, is it really necessary to ask, can I ask you a question before asking a question? And he said, yes. Okay, well, it was so funny. My first week, it was really frustrating because you have so many questions and everything is new, and I really tried.
Can I ask them?
Can I ask? And
Can I ask so many questions?
My direct supervisor was always very busy, so you're really looking for that moment to come up and ask a question, and then you have to ask, can I ask it? And then he's already gone, So
Yeah, but asking, can I ask a question?
Is a question.
Is already a question in itself, so it's a little bit silly. But
To answer no is
too late.
too late.
It's already been done. But it creates an opportunity for people to say, not at the time, but come back to me in 10 minutes, or I will get back to you in 5 minutes, or whatever.
I got that a few times, indeed, but most of the times people are just available and wanting to ask, to answer straight away.
For you, they are.
That just creates, I think, also everything in the Netherlands is about freedom of choice and freedom of speech and do what you want. You hear it everywhere and in everything. And this is also, I think, kind of, can I ask you now? They wouldn't really mind, but it's another way of saying, can I enter your private space and ask this question? But in the beginning just sounds very strange. I am here to learn, so I have to ask this extra question all the time. It's like saying hello not in an email, but in a message. But it's underlining the general politeness, which is very good. It's also not as present in Ukraine, and it should be, because it's really about invading people's personal space, even though you're at work with 250 people, yes.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't feel like anyone can just come up and distract you any minute.
And what do you like the least about working in the Netherlands?
Making fun of my lunch.
Is it that terrible?
Yes. It's
Okay.
annoying for 2 years.
So we will get you a t-shirt.
Stop making fun of my lunch.
Exactly.
No, I'm
Stop
joking.
making
It's just funny that people still do that. Yeah, so I was trying to think about one more thing that I don't like. Only good things come to mind. Like, for example, I like how flexible also this company is. And once again, maybe that's not about all Dutch companies, but this company is quite flexible. And if you're a little late, you stay maybe a little longer, or maybe another day you
They
come a
won't
little
fire
earlier.
you.
They won't fire you. And so it is good, because you can be late, and generally people stress out about it. I do. So I used to arrive much earlier. Like, I had to take one bus earlier because I was afraid to be 5 minutes late. But then I saw in the progress of the years that I stay over much more than even if I'm late for those 5 minutes. And I know a lot of companies register what time you arrived and
Yeah,
what
it
time
depends
you leave.
really on the company if they look at your time input or your work output.
Yeah, but
that
it
too.
also depends on the kind of job.
Exactly. Yeah.
Warehouses work very differently because they have a lot of people they hire from uitzendbureaus.
Uitzendbureaus.
Uitzendbureaus
Yeah,
in English.
those.
Broadcast bureaus.
Those. So then it's very important to really clock the time that they are actually working, because that is the time you have to pay to the uitzendbureau.
Yeah, it's because of the whole system behind the. And if I can imagine if you carry boxes from one place to another, it really makes a difference if you work an hour more or less. But if you have more like a creative job, sometimes it's just you don't have better ideas if you sit like an hour longer.
Yes.
True.
If you manage to perform in the time that you have.
Yeah.
If it's not a regular basis that you're late or it's a bad habit, then so fine. But also flexible in a way, like I don't have to inform about my standards appointment a month in advance. I can just one time forget it and say the day before, oh, sorry, tomorrow I'm going to be a little late because of standards appointment. So in this way, but maybe it's also, of course, a built-up trust already for 2 years.
Yeah, if you're there when it's needed, that's the most important part, I think.
Yeah.
If your team can perform because you're there, but if you're
Thank you for joining us, Daria.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
It was fun. I hope people will find something interesting in our stories.
Of course.
Of course.
I'm sure they will.
Couldn't be anything else. And I think I will never make fun of anyone's lunch again.
Please don't.
Dit was weer een aflevering van Overwerk. Heb jij nou ook verhalen die je wilt delen? Ga dan naar overwerkdepodcast.nl en wie weet zien we jou dan binnenkort in de studio. Tot de volgende keer!